colleagues are tracking the latest coming in from the court as well. These are the latest visuals on your screen. Now, about 30 ASI officials are now inside the mosque premises. They are divided into 4 teams. One will be tracking the domes, another will be tracking the platform, third team will be tracking rest of the complex. Team 1 will be focusing on the western wall, which demarcates the Kashi Vishwanath temple with that of the Gyanvapi premises. And therefore, remember, now this is going to be very crucial. After the Ayodhya case, could this be the one that could actually set a precedent as well? Could the Ayodhya verdict have any bearing on that? We'll go across to our legal correspondents on that as well. But these are the visuals on your screen to help you understand how does and where does the Kashi Vishwanath temple stand, and the wall that demarcates it, how will that now be examined by the Gyanvapi premises? Abhishek Mishra continues to be with us on the latest. And Abhishek, if and just stay on with me, because I want to get in another legal perspective on that, because Anisha Mathur is also now joining me in this live telecast. Anisha, you're at the court. Tell us, one, because the Muslim side says we have moved the Supreme Court, we will not let this survey happen, we will not participate in it, because there are, according to them, the mosque could be damaged. How is the Hindu side reacting to it? One, and secondly, where does the legality of this stand? The court has ordered the archaeological survey to be done. How much of that will lay a bearing to a possible verdict?
Well, Pooja, there are several nuances to these questions that you've asked. Of course, the Hindu side has been saying that their scientific survey is the only way to find out what is under the ground and behind these walls, under the walls, really, of the dilapidated structure, which is currently known as the Gyanvapi Mosque and the Kashi Vishwanath temple. However, legally, when you look at all of these issues, there are a lot of questions that are being asked by the Muslim petitioners regarding the reopening of this entire dispute. You have just mentioned that after the Ayodhya verdict, this issue has come up. This is also an argument that is being made by the Muslim side, that the Ayodhya verdict of 2019 had specifically said that this verdict is with regard to laying quietus to the Ayodhya issue. It is not a precedent for other matters. However, it is being cited repeatedly to say that since the Ayodhya matter had gone through the court, since the Hindu side had won, and this has become a very, very politically charged statement that is being made by the devotees and by political leaders, that since since the Ayodhya verdict was in favor of the Hindu side, they are trying to also now revive the Kashi as well as the Mathura disputes. Both of those matters are now before the various courts, as well at the district level and in the Supreme Court. Now, as far as the legality of today's the issue today we are discussing is concerned, of course, the district court within its power has exercised its power and directed an ASI survey, noting that whatever is under the structure that is being claimed by the Hindus, the only way to find out what is under those structures is by a scientific survey. On the other hand, the Muslim side is citing the verdict passed by the Supreme Court, the orders passed by the Supreme Court and the Allahabad High Court last year in 2022, where the scientific survey, even of that Wazukhana site, was stayed to ensure communal harmony. It was also a question of the 1991 Places of Worship Act, that whether you can order whether the scientific survey or any outcome of that scientific survey will change the religious character of the site from what it was at the time of independence. Remember, this is a hugely volatile political and legal issue. This is also a very nuanced legal issue, because the 1991 Places of Worship Act has clearly said that you cannot change the religious character of that particular land. The Hindu petitioners, of course, are arguing that we are not changing the religious character. We want to find out what the actual religious character really is. Now, that is a very nuanced argument. That is also a very charged argument to make, that what the Hindu side is saying, that because a temple already existed at the time when Aurangzeb ordered it broken down, at the time of independence, the mosque is not a mosque because it was made on the ruins of a temple. Now, that is a very complicated question that the courts will have to grapple with, or they can choose not to grapple with if they choose to say that the 1991 Places of Worship Act would apply. But the Varanasi court very specifically has said that we will have to see how that applies before we can look into whether it applies. And that is where this entire complication comes in. And that is why the Muslim side is once again expected to be in the Supreme Court today. They have moved a urgent hearing plea saying that the trial court is interpreting this law incorrectly, that there is already a set precedent from the May last year's orders of the Supreme Court and of the Allahabad High Court that you cannot conduct a scientific survey because it could A, lead to damage of whatever already exists, and B, it would create a communally disharmonious atmosphere, and it will also additionally violate the terms of the 1991 Act. All of these arguments will be placed before the Supreme Court bench headed by the Chief Justice today. We've been speaking to the lawyers from the Muslim side and the Hindu side, while the Hindu side, of course, is saying that they are hopeful that the scientific survey will be able to vindicate their stance that this was never a proper mosque, that it should be handed back to the Hindus. The Muslim side is arguing that this has been a mosque for over 400, 500 years, and it should be allowed to stay a mosque. The Gyanvapi Mosque should be allowed to stay where it is. The Kashi Vishwanath Temple should be allowed to stay
I have a
where
quick question here. How much of a bearing will the Ayodhya case or possibly could it have on this case, or that will be treated extremely separate? There is a precedent, but could it be placed in this manner, or there is a scientific survey or archaeological survey that will take the decision on this in the next legal step that will be taken?
Well, Pooja, as I was saying, the Ayodhya verdict specifically says that this is not a precedent case to be handled, because Ayodhya was specifically given as an exemption even in the 1991 Act. I am just going to find that exact paragraph in the in the Ayodhya verdict and read it for you, that where the Supreme Court's 5-judge bench, where it has said that a doctrine of necessity has to be, and I'm reading this here, that where the Supreme Court's 5-judge bench in the Ayodhya verdict was talking about the precedent value of this particular case and where this entire issue has gone, that other matters should not be conflated with this particular case.
Interesting.
That there were specific exemptions given for Ayodhya in the Act itself, and that is where the Supreme Court had said that we are passing this order for the Ayodhya case. As far as the ASI survey is concerned, of course, the Hindu side is of the view and is of the hope that if there is a scientific survey which shows certain structures underneath what is currently the floor of the structure as it exists today, then their claim that this was never a mosque and it should be therefore restored to Adi Vishweshwar.
Clearly, the Hindu side will be banking on that. They will be banking on the scientific survey of the Archaeological Survey of India. If they manage to bring out any evidence that there were Hindu artifacts, or at least evidence of a Hindu temple, an older Shiva temple there, on which Aurangzeb had built the mosque. Now, remember, the part of it, mainly the bone of contention, was the Wazu Khana area, where there was, according to the Hindu side, a claimed shivling. But that's been sealed for now. That's a different matter that's currently in the court. And that will not be a part of the ASI survey.